My next guests are two men very near and dear to my heart, and they share in my joy of having worked on Star Trek: The Next Generation. They can both now be seen in Star Trek Picard. The first season is now streaming on CBS All Access in the United States. Please welcome my very good friends, my family, Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, guys.
What a pleasure. Right, Johnny?
It's wonderful to see you both.
But doesn't Will look great, John?
He reminds me of a young Will Riker.
Yeah, he reminds me of a young Paul Newman.
I've never felt so validated in my life. Thank you. Thank you.
You look great. You're doing a great job, Will. Proud of you. Proud of you.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to talk to each of you today because I talked to you individually on Ready Room for Picard, but I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk with both of you together. And we're here on Star Trek Day. And Star Trek Day is something that is important to fandom. It's important to the Star Trek franchise. But I'm curious to know if Star Trek Day means anything special to both of you as members of the loving and far-reaching family we are members of.
I actually celebrate Captain Picard Day.
Yes. Patrick, I want to know a little bit more about what you've been doing while in quarantine. I watch your sonnets every day on Instagram. They are wonderful. They are beautiful. You are so generous to share your talent and your beautiful work with the world. And Johnny, I saw that you cameoed on one of Patrick's sonnets. Would you talk about that real quick?
I'd be happy to. First of all, I share your feeling about the sonnets. I second that emotion. They are an important part of my day, and I think we're not alone. I was invited to Patrick and Sunny's house for a social distance lunch, which was the best salad niçoise ever made. But they sprung on me a request to do a sonnet. Something, first of all, I've never done. Secondly, in the company of you-know-who, SPS. Right. And I said, well, let me try it. So I auditioned for Patrick, essentially. He gave me his book, so I held that paperback that he's using, that he worked through. And I saw some secrets in there. And I did a dress rehearsal, and I looked at Patrick, and I said, is that going to be all right? And he said, Johnny, you'll be fine. And I did it. I trusted him.
Which is what every good actor does. Patrick, you have been working on your memoirs. Would you talk about that?
I tell anecdotes and stories. That's when I'm really happy. So I was telling them how when I was my first year at drama school, on the first term break, I went to work for a builder, and he said, yeah, we got a job for you. And it was working with a bricklayer. What he didn't tell me, that the bricklayer I was going to be working with was a champion. I mean, literally, he was a star bricklayer. And he insisted that all his mortar was mixed by hand. No, switching on the cement mixer. None of that at all. No, it had to be done by hand. He gave me the ingredients, told me what to do with them, and enough water, and I mixed for him. And then I saw him laying bricks, and it was the most dazzling thing I'd ever seen. His hands were a blur as they moved. So, and suddenly realized, oh, I'm running out of mortar. I'm going to go back and make some more. Well, it was really, really hard work. But then, 10 years later, I laid bricks in the hearth of my Inglenook fireplace in a 15th century cottage. And it was all because of my day working with this champion bricklayer. I'm sorry, that was a very long answer to a very simple question.
It was a very beautiful answer. And
That's a wonderful story.
Johnny, I know before the world sort of burned down, you were directing episodes of Star Trek Discovery Season 3.
I was.
What was it like for you reuniting with that cast and crew, and more importantly, getting to play in what's a brand new era for Discovery?
That cast and crew, as I've said to you before, reminds me of us in many, many ways.
Really?
Primarily, they've bonded. Do you remember when we were starting on the show, we would work all 80-hour week?
Yep.
And then we go to Nickelodeon and have a drink, and then we'd get together and have a meal on the weekend. And it was like that. And to answer the second part of your question, the third season of the show it's magical because they've gone ahead 903 years or something nuts. And Sonequa, who I'm crazy about, is the number one, has taken on entirely new life, and it's wonderful.
How has she done that, Johnny? Was it in the writing?
Yes, she says, when I asked her, I said, I feel so much more joy from you. And she said, my character is no longer driven by fear.
Oh,
And
that's
that has,
so
it has
interesting.
affected her work, and it's affected the set, and it's affected the show.
I had the pleasure of talking to the Enterprise cast about working on their show, and they all praised Scott Bakula for being an incredible number one on the call sheet.
Speaking of number ones, because he's standing right there and won't tell it about himself, the reason, and I think you know this, Will, that this Next Generation cast has this reputation for being rambunctious or wild, is because the level of the standard of work that we had to be prepared to deliver with Patrick as number one, I was never so well prepared. None of us were.
Yeah,
and because you're that well prepared, the environment is one in which you can play between setups instead of learning your lines or panicking. And that, because of our leaders, our number one's approach to the work, our work became better, obviously. And also the environment on the set was magical. How about it, Patrick?
Everything you say resonates and moves me, Jonathan, a lot. As you know, I did make a bit of an ass of myself in the first season when I called the group together and criticized everybody for being too out of control on the set, too rowdy, too noisy, wasting time, and so forth. And I know you let me live that down eventually, and that I became as one with all of you in trying to dream up stupid things to do and say. But Jonathan, you know, my father was a regimental sergeant major in the British Army, in the parachute regiment. And I think I get this from him, because I know he did. I actually love being the leader. I love having responsibilities that go beyond acting as well as I can. You carry a duty as number one, and it's, luckily I enjoy it. And I found during our 7 years at Paramount that I got better and better at it. Go on, your turn now, Will. Wil Wheaton.
Wil Wheaton, WW.
That's what they call him in London, you know.
Yeah.
Will, are you a friend of Wil Wheaton? Yeah, of course I have.
I had a really wonderful time speaking with and getting to know a little bit the cast of Star Trek Picard for Ready Room last season. And every single member of the Picard cast talked about how much they love having you, Patrick, as number one on their call sheet. And what was really great is, separated by 20 years, I was able to relate to the experiences that they have had. And I love that. I love that you continue to be the amazing leader that you were that you were then. And that is completely unsurprising to me. Now, I specifically want to talk about episode 107, Nepenthe, which was hands down, I didn't think any episode was going to land on me harder than Free Cloud, but Nepenthe just blew it away. It was the most emotional episode of the season for me, even including the finale, which we'll get to. But I would love to hear from both of you. Let's start with you, Johnny. Tell me what it was like to see each other in costume, in character, for the first time in just about 2 decades.
It was a very emotional show to be in. It resonated, I think, with the fans. And to see Picard come through the door of my cabin and that wonderful big hug that I was encouraged to throw on him was the easiest and most natural and best way to start that week for me.
When we were rehearsing and shooting, and I walked on the set, it was not the same. It wasn't like walking on the bridge of the Enterprise. No. And there was number one sitting in my chair because he was flying the ship, and then he got up and welcomed me. there was none of that because we didn't look like Will Riker and Jean-Luc Picard at all. And the whole world, the environment that we were in was totally different. Now, I found that really stimulating. And I got a feeling you did too, John.
Yeah, of course.
Johnny, I didn't get a chance to ask you about this last time we spoke on Ready Room because the episode hadn't premiered yet. So let's talk about Riker's heroic return in the season 1 finale of Picard. Oh my God, dude, it's so cool. Would you just talk about what it was like to put on a Starfleet uniform again?
I had a little unit in Toronto because I was shooting Discovery. And the costume designer, Chris, came up to Toronto to fit me in my costume. And my favorite hair and makeup people did my, because I had wilder hair in the Pente. And so it was a buzz. And this little one chair setup was an absolute buzz because it was filled with Trekkers. And it was fun because I was essentially alone with Jay-Z, the visual effects supervisor who was going to make sure that everything worked. And the speeches were fantastic. And I had a kind of a great experience because it was a little tiny set, a little tiny couple of hours, but it was clearly an important part of the finale. And I had to keep my mouth shut about it. So it worked out, I thought, quite well. Again, credit to Shaban and Akiva and Alex, because it was hard to weave those stories together.
The friendship, the relationship between Riker and Picard is so strong. And for those of us who are fans, it was wonderful to see that their core friendship endures after so many years. Patrick, what do you think it is about these two men that keeps them so bonded after knowing each other for decades?
I think enormous respect is one of the most important qualities. Picard saw the ability that Riker had and knew that that could expand and expand and that he could be trusted. And it wasn't something where I managed to manipulate and tweak the situation at all. He also was a little irreverent too. And I think Picard appreciated that in his life, having that, because he's basically a pretty serious guy most of the time. I mean, I think I've already had more jokes in Picard than I had in 7 years of Next Generation. And the jokes are all mine, by the way.
The two characters have this incredible ability to walk the line between friend and colleague, and they know when and how to speak to each other personally and professionally. Johnny, why do you think that relationship worked so well for them on those two levels across all the shows and the movie?
All the qualities that both Picard and Riker have. They are great under pressure, and I wish I were. And I've always admired the fact that both, particularly those two characters, were written with real presence and civility and humor and intelligence, and that they honored each other. And it was a kind of a privilege. And it started early. It started with Jean, and it certainly is true now with the writers on Picard.
You each have directed each other on Next Generation. Johnny, you directed Patrick on Picard. Would you both talk a little bit about that relationship?
Well, yes, I directed, I can't remember now, 5 or 6 episodes. And that was only because John had shown me the way. John went to Paramount University to learn to be a director. I mean, he devoted hours and days and weekends to this job until he got to a point where they were ready to say, okay, we'll give you a show to direct. And Jonathan broke through that barrier that I was able also to step into when my time came, and to be able to experiment and explore this new role with people whom I trusted totally. And I'm not just talking about the cast, but the camera crew, the stage crew, everybody, hair and makeup. I was working with these people every day as an actor. And even though a lot of piss was taken out of me at times, I got such support. I couldn't have done it without them. There was one day when we were shooting the Western. What was it called, Johnny?
Fistful of Datas.
Fistful of Datas. And we had one day on Warner Brothers' back Western lot. And I was scared. And our assistant director said to me, you know, I got to tell you, today is not makeable. We cannot shoot everything that's on the call sheet. And
that's a great feeling, isn't it?
Oh, wonderful.
Wow.
Well, we all worked it out. We worked with our DP, I'm going to say Morgan.
Marvin Rush.
Marvin. And we began filming, and we had big setups with cameras way up on rostrums. We had a crane, which I got to ride on, which was amazing, you know, pretending that I was a real director. And yet still, the light was beginning to go at the end of the afternoon, and we still had pages of stuff we hadn't done. Well, again, Marvin, our wonderful DP, worked out how we could use less light, or we could use artificial light, and not make it appear as though there had been any kind of break at all. And the very last shot we did of that film is of Brent Spiner dressed in his Western uniform with the cowboy hat. There's a door, there's a wall here, and he goes and looks out of the door. It was one of the greatest days of my life.
You're also an executive producer on Picard, and I know that you like to spend a lot of time in the writer's room, and I wonder if you are able to or care to discuss anything at all about maybe break-in season 2?
The first 4 episodes are unlike anything that I've read before for Star Trek. They're extraordinary. The complexity, the characterization is so intense. The unexpected situations. I can't wait to begin.
Johnny, I'm sure they're going to ask you to direct, and I'm sure you're going to say yes. So I don't really have a question around that. I just want to say how excited I am for that to happen.
I feel the same way.
The last thing that I wanted to talk about is pure fan service. I know the answer to the question, why are we still friends? I know the answer to the question, how often do we talk to each other, and what does it mean for us to have had this ongoing relationship for over 30 years? But I would just love, and I know the fans would love, for both of you to just talk a little bit about this family that we have become. I've told all of you individually, my biological family failed me, and you all stepped up and became the parents that I needed and deserved. And you took on that role that you didn't need to, but you did it. And you helped me become the person I am today, so I can be sitting here talking to you and everybody else. And I would just love for you to talk a little bit about our family, however you want to, because I'm the host of this show, and that's important to me.
I think that we were in love with one another, and that was what characterized all our relationships. Yes, it wasn't a conventional love affair, and it was a group love affair, but it exists until this day.
I was going to use the same phrase. I think we are in love with each other. I know we are. And I got to say something to you, Will. We didn't know that your biological family had failed you. And you have been to us on the set all through the 7 years, but as an adult, such an addition to our family, and such an addition in a way that sometimes we get laissez-faire, but you have always stayed honest about how important this show is. And you don't take it casually the way we may be guilty of sometimes. And that has been great. I think I speak for all of us. That has been great for us to have you on these panels that we do. You bring a levity and a certain amount of gravitas at the same time that is invaluable to us.
That means the world to me. That absolutely means the world to me. I'm going to be reduced to tears if I keep talking. So I want to thank you both so much. I love you. I love you so much. And I miss being able to see you in person, but I am so grateful that we got to spend this time together today. I miss you, and I really look forward to seeing both of you again soon.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Love you all.
Gentlemen, thank you both so much for joining me here to celebrate Star Trek Day. It is always just such a blessing to catch up with you. For everyone at home, the complete first season of Star Trek Picard is now streaming on CBS All Access in the United States, on Amazon Prime Video in more than 200 countries and territories, and in Canada, it airs on Bell Media's CTV Sci-Fi channel and streams on Crave. Also, one final reminder that today on Star Trek Day, our Star Trek United campaign is in full swing, and you can still help support it. For every person who tweets the hashtag Star Trek United Gives, CBS All Access will donate $1 to organizations who do the real-world work of championing equality, social justice, and the pursuit of scientific advancements. Jonathan, Patrick, I hope we are in the same place very, very soon. It was a pleasure as always.